Hi guys, Aussie Guy here. Last video I told you that I was going to install a larger carburetor and a sports air filter on the bike. Well, I'm in the process of doing that right now, but I thought I would just give you a little bit of a rundown on the carburetors that are on the bike and that I'm going to install. Often guys will buy an aftermarket carburetor and they'll say, wow, look at how big my new carburetor is compared to the old one. They're looking at the bell mouth here, and yes, there is a considerable difference in size, but in reality you're only concerned with the Venturi, which is this channel through the carburetor. Turn them around, there's 2 mil difference between them. You can hardly see that difference, but it's volume enough to actually improve the performance of your motorcycle. That's one thing, so don't confuse the bell mouth with the size of your carburetor. It's the Venturi. There's only 2 mil difference. This one's 2 mil larger than the standard. The big difference between these carburetors is that this one is called a constant velocity carburetor, where it relies on vacuum to lift the needle, which allows for the fuel flow. Excuse me. That means that it's slower to respond and slower when you close the throttle. But it's a very good carburetor for constant speed, so cruising, touring and so forth. This is one that they use on race bikes. It has a flat slide carburetor which is lifted by your cable. That means it responds immediately to any throttle input, as well as it shoots a jet of fuel into your motor as well to give it that kick. So your flat slide carburetor is the better one for immediate response. So that's the difference between the two carburetors, the Venturi size and how they operate. So this one is the race style. That's what I'm hoping is going to improve the performance of my bike. From all I've read online, it does make a difference. Along with this carburetor, I've taken out the original airbox, which as you can see is pretty huge, and I'm replacing it with this sports air filter. Now this is a Nibbi sports air filter, I believe made in Indonesia. It's designed on the K&N filter style. Now it didn't come pre-lubed. I don't know whether it should be lubricated, but since it is the fabric based type, I'm going to use my K&N oil filter on it anyway. So because I believe that you should never run a dry filter, certainly not an aftermarket one like this. So that's what's going on this carburetor. As you can see, this one is curved. Not for any particular purpose did I buy it. It was the only one that was available online. You don't need to put in a curved one. You can use flat. It's not important. But buy a good quality one. Don't buy just the plain mesh ones that you see for 100 pesos in the bike shop. They will let a whole lot of dirt through. That dirt is very fine. It's like a sandpaper. It will wear out parts in your motor before you know it. You'll be burning oil. You'll be losing performance because of your $100 filter. Buy a good one. This one cost me, I think, $700. Okay, with the carburetor, I bought that online. Cost me $35 US, so what's that? 1,500 peso. Came in a very nice box. Nice little metal box. It's an imitation Mikuni, but it also came with extra jets and an extra needle. So that's for jetting your carburetor to get it to run perfectly well. Most people who buy a bigger carburetor put in bigger jets because they think, oh well, it's bigger, it needs bigger jets. No, you actually should run the same size jet in your original carburetor simply because with the larger Venturi, it's drawing more fuel through the same jet size. So if you put a larger jet in, more than likely you're going to be running very, very rich. So I'm going to try and fit the standard jet inside this carburetor in this one. If I can't, then I will buy one that is the same size, and I believe this is a 118. So guys, that's about it. When I get it all assembled, I'll let you know how it goes. But before I sign off on this part, pulling the bike apart, there's 3 bolts that the tank mounts to. Take off the side panels. When you remove this, you will see this is mounted to the side of that airbox. This is your relay for your starter motor. So it's got nothing to mount to now. So I'm going to, if I can find it, modify this bracket to mount this there. So I'm going to use the original airbox mount, and I'm just going to mount the relay, starter motor relay there. I would suggest you do that rather than let it hang loose like that. That's not really very good mechanics. Always mount your electrical hardware. Okay, so I'm just going to do that. That's easy. That's just a stainless steel bracket from Ace Hardware. I think it costs 50 pesos. When you remove the fuel tank, which is over here, this fuel line goes to your fuel tap. So when you take it off, it's going to be pouring out fuel. So before you take it off the fuel tap, pinch it, remove it, and then just slip a 10mm screw or bolt into the end. That stops it from leaking all your fuel everywhere. Just a little tip that's worthwhile knowing. Also, when you take off the tank, don't forget to disconnect your fuel gauge wire. If you try to reef your tank off and break this, you're going to have a nightmare and you won't know what your fuel is on your dash. Other than that, it was pretty easy to remove the tank. You can see I changed my shirt because I'm sweating a lot here, but it's still the same day, still the same job. Okay, I've got the carburetor set up here. I've installed the air filter. I actually like the 45-degree air filter because it actually lifts the intake up where you can get the cooler air coming across the motor, rather than if it was straight, you'd be getting the heat of the motor. And as you all know, cool air, more dense air is better for a better running motor. Okay, I didn't have really very many problems fitting it up. This is a cable of, I think, an MT155 Honda that a friend recommended would fit, and yes, it does. It's perfectly fits. Now, what this carburetor has is a manual choke. So the choke that you have up here on your handlebar, this will not fit. It's a different size, different thread. So you can either remove the entire cable. I'm just going to roll it up, tape it off, and just leave it because I couldn't be bothered pulling apart the switch cluster to remove it. But I might do that, I'm not sure. Okay, when you install your carburetor, because your bike's on a side stand, make sure that you stand it up straight before you tighten up your carb, because otherwise you will have your carburetor sitting on an angle if you make it level while on the side stand. I hope you follow what I mean. Here's the little bracket I made up. It's not the neatest in the world, but hey, I just drilled each end to take a 10mm bolt and just mounted up that relay combo. So that's nicely out of the way. It's secure. Carburetor is secure. What you might want to do is buy some, not this plastic hose, fuel hose. It's a little bit too small. See if you can get the genuine kind of fuel hose, the rubber style, because while this one fitted the fuel tap, it was too small for the fuel intake. I had to really squeeze that on, so I wouldn't be surprised if at some time in the future it splits because it's really stretched on there. So just bear that in mind. Try to buy rubber fuel hose. Other than that, it seems to have gone together pretty well. The throttle works quite well. I obviously haven't run the bike yet. I'm going to reassemble it, then I'll adjust the cable for slack. But not a major job. I started this afternoon at 2 and I think it's 4:30 now. 2.5 hours to do the whole thing. So if you want a time frame on it. Okay, now I'm just going to assemble it, and maybe at the end of the video, maybe I'll broadcast a very short video after I've assembled it and taken it for a ride. But I'd like to get this video up there for those of you who are interested. Hi guys, as you can see it's all together and running. My first impressions are there is almost an immediate improvement in throttle response. The bike is actually much more responsive. You can hear that nice little induction noise coming through the air filter. The note has improved in the exhaust because I think the gases are flowing more freely. Is there a major improvement in power? Probably not, but I think it's still a nice little I think it's a nice little modification to do if you have the time, and it doesn't cost much money, a couple of thousand pesos, and you have that little extra throttle response straight off the mark. It's actually quite nice. I didn't take the bike right out on the highway to see if I've got an improved top end speed, and I doubt that I do. But I think if if you're a kind of guy who plays with the gears like I do up and down through the traffic, you'll probably find it actually is probably a good improvement. So overall, for the money, I think it's not a bad deal. This is the day after assembling the bike. I've had an opportunity to take it up the highway and give it a bit of a rev and see how it performs, to see if there is a noticeable difference in performance and response. And I have to say, yes, there is a very noticeable difference. You don't have to twist the throttle so hard to get it up to red line. It seems to climb to red line pretty quickly. Nice responsiveness, and for some reason the bike even sounds better, so I'm actually really impressed. Straight out of the box, the main jet was 125 and the main jet in the original Carb was 138, so I've actually gone with the 125 main jet, and both idle jets were almost identical in size, so I didn't bother swapping them. So out of the box it actually performed really well. I've just now adjusted the idle and the air fuel mix just to tweak it and get it idling nice and smooth. So bottom line, for around 2,000 pesos, is it a worthwhile investment? I would say definitely a worthwhile effort to go through to make your bike perform like a 250 should. So that's it, guys. Ride safe, take care.